Hello and welcome to the NFL Survivor Pool video for Week 14, brought to you by Pool Genius. My name is Stephen Andress, joined each and every week on this show by the lead analyst over at Pool Genius, Jason Lisk. You can follow him on X at Jason Lisk. In this episode, we're going to look at the biggest favorites of the week in NFL Survivor pools, maybe some of the smaller favorites that might be worth discussing with your Survivor life on the line. And we'll also talk about the 5 most popular picks for NFL Survivor pools in week number 14. And Jason, I know the massive Circa pool had a lot of carnage, like 91% or something of the remaining field knocked out on Thanksgiving and Black Friday. But for the rest of us in the normal pick one team in a week, as long as you avoided Thanksgiving and Black Friday or the Rams, I guess you're alive.
Yeah. So last week wasn't a great week for the value. Like the Rams were a high value play. So I trust me, I lost a couple.
Yeah, it started raining in the second half. It's just a lot of unforeseen things there.
The Rams have looked like Super Bowl contenders and winners for most of the year. But when I have a Survivor entry on that Thursday night at San Francisco and now this one, they just like make mistake after mistake. And the Panthers, what do we make of this team? I mean, this team has now won twice, is a double-digit favorite. We're now hearing that we are underrating the Panthers. They can take that opinion and go bet it in Vegas, because I promise you, on week 15, they're not going to like the line they're going to see on the Panthers, because the Panthers have been outscored in a lot of games. Like how quickly we forget they lost to the Saints like 3 weeks ago at home. That they were blown out by multiple teams. The 49ers handled them pretty easily. That they've been boat raced by the Patriots, by the Bills. But that Panthers team, they are this year's enigma, I think, in Survivor.
Yeah, it's like a seesaw. You can't even say it's like home and road splits with the Panthers, because 2 weeks ago they won in overtime at Atlanta. The week before that they lost at home 17-7 to the Saints. So, but it's a seesaw. It's like win loss, and that I can't say that's predictive. That's just happenstance, it seems. So I agree with you. They're 7-6. I'm not sure they're a playoff team.
They might be. They might be, though. We're going to talk about like the team they're trying to chase down. They're very much alive to win the NFC South with just a couple more of these games, right?
Yeah, still 2 games left against the Bucs on the schedule with 4 to go.
Yep.
They had the bye this week for the Panthers.
Yep, they had the bye. So last week was like one of those weeks where the teams that people had to take because they maybe didn't have the options or they chose to take, like at the high end, the Chargers. It's somewhat similar. Chargers are like we're going to get to them, the Bucs this week. There were some other options like the Dolphins last week. They won. And then you lost out on the Rams. So the people like saving up to play against the crowd ended up getting clipped last week with either the Rams, maybe the Eagles on Black Friday at lower ownership. So it was not a great week for those people, of which I had a few entries. And so we move forward, and now we're I think at a really tough week.
For sure. 5 weeks to go to get to your Survivor pool finish lines here. If you are not a Pool Genius subscriber, I invite you to check out the free 3-day trial link down in the description. I am speaking from experience. I never made it to Thanksgiving in my Survivor pools in the past. I started using Jason and his team's Pool Genius tools, and I took down a $10,000 Survivor pool just last year. So the tools are incredible. We're going to show you some of them in this video. And if you've made it this far, give yourself an edge over the rest of the field. At least try it out for 1 week. I'm telling you, I'm promising you, you're going to love the tools. And with this much EV per entry, no matter what pool you're in at this point, it's worth it to get yourself a higher probability of getting to the finish line with these tools. So let's start off our week 14 NFL Survivor Pool handicap with the 5 most popular picks for the week. I'll start with number 5. The Buffalo Bills are hosting the Cincinnati Bengals with a 5% pick popularity as projected by Pool Genius. The Bills are about a 6-point favorite against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. We have to monitor the injury report here. Both of their tackles missed the game last week with 3 times DMP on the injury report. We'll see if Dawkins and Brown can get back for this one. maybe Dalton Kincaid gets back. And for the Bengals, as we record here on Wednesday morning, we don't know about T. Higgins. He is still in the concussion protocol, but just 5% pick popularity on the Buffalo Bills against Joe Burrow, who came back with a vengeance on Thanksgiving night a week ago. Number 4, Jake.
Yeah, number 4, among our list of usual suspects recently, Seattle, who was the biggest favorite a week ago, now goes on the road at Atlanta. Touchdown favorite, and we've got 6%. There's not many that have them available, but we think a lot of the people that still do will use them. So 6% on Seattle in week 14.
And we'll see about Drake London, whether he comes back. There's been some early interest in the Falcons, moving that from about 8.5 down to that spread of 7 for the Seahawks. Number 3 most popular team projected by Pool Genius and NFL Survivor Pools for week 14 is the Denver Broncos, going on the road to take on the Las Vegas Raiders. Not surprising, the Raiders with the Titans are the two teams that Survivor Pool entries like to pick on the most at this point in the season. Pool Genius is projecting 7% pick popularity for the Denver Broncos going on the road to take on Las Vegas. And I don't really know what to add here other than Vegas is still a disaster. I don't really know if I ever want to lay this many points, more than a touchdown with Bo Nix on the road. Certainly didn't do it last week, and it worked out well with that overtime cover by the Commanders. But in Survivor Pool context, he just has to beat the Raiders, which seems like a pretty easy ask here. So I certainly understand that. And obviously the pick popularity is low because a lot of entries have already used the Broncos at different parts throughout the season, especially early in the season as well. Number 2, Jake.
Yeah, number 2, and this is when you know we are down to it in Survivor season. The number 2 team in our pick popularity data, the Cleveland Browns, hosting our Tennessee Titans. 4-point favorite. We're projecting 12%. You're going to see this number higher. You're going to see this number fluctuate in different pools, right? You're going to see this number higher in pools that have used more picks, started in week 1. You may see it lower in later starts or pools that haven't used as many picks. But the Browns at 12% are Mr. Available number 2 this week. And so we project the Browns will be a team that a lot of people will fall to.
I'm going to have some thoughts later on in this video about Shedeur Sanders at 12%. We'll get to that in a minute. But the number 1 most popular team in NFL Survivor Pools as projected by Pool Genius is the team that we've been talking about for this week in particular for some time now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home against the New Orleans Saints. Pool Genius projecting 51% pick popularity here. It's understandable why. If you look at the way the Saints have looked, the Bucs are healthier now, although they didn't exactly inspire a ton of confidence with only a 3-point win last week against the Arizona Cardinals, but they are healthier now. Chris Godwin is back. There's an outside chance that Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan practice this week at wide receiver, even if they don't get them back. The rest of their injury report on defense looks better. Jamel Dean, their amazing secondary player, Hassan Reddick, the edge rusher, they're all back. They're healthy. The only question is whether Baker Mayfield is still playing banged up. He still has that left shoulder AC joint issue that he's been dealing with, but it's not his throwing shoulder. So I understand why the pick popularity is here at 51%. And Jason, let's jump right into the handicap here for week 14 with the biggest favorites. And our amazing editor, Jack, will pull up the data grid here for us. But we do not have any double-digit favorites this week. But we do have 3 teams that are more than a touchdown favorite. That is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at that incredibly high popularity at 51%. Also, the Rams are 9-point favorites going on the road to take on Arizona. And then we also have the Denver Broncos, who are 7.5-point favorites at the Las Vegas Raiders. So I guess we'll start there. It seems like an obvious pick. You may not have the Rams or the Broncos, but I think we need to discuss whether if you survived last week, that means you didn't pick the Rams, which means you might have the Rams available. So the question to me is very simple. it's about week 17 with the Rams. You brought it up last week. If the Rams are available to you, you need to look at what's also available to you in week 17, because that week they're projected to be the most likely to win at 75%. And then the next two are the Patriots at the Jets and the Seahawks at the Panthers, who we have already discussed is quite the bugaboo this year. Hard to figure that team out. And then the Lions at Minnesota, which those are three teams that a lot of people have already used. So if you don't have any of them available, then you kind of have to save the Rams for week 17. If you have a couple of those other teams available, then I think the Rams are a fantastic option this week at only 4% popularity.
Yeah, and I think it's yes, I agree 100% with what you just laid out. I think the Rams would be the top pick if you have a pretty good alternative in week 17. The problem is I'm going to say very, very, very few people have that luxury. I know I'm looking at my portfolio left. The two that got through last week with Seattle have the Rams. So it was these are both late start, like week 3 starts, where I didn't take Seattle right away. So I had them. So I have the Rams on two of those. I don't have New England now. I used Seattle last week on both to get through. And so my choices are probably something like use the Rams on both, split them, in which case I might be going to like a San Francisco in week 17 on the one I split off and use the Rams now. So that's really, I think, where you're looking is, are you comfortable falling back to like a San Francisco? That 17 can be tough where very few people have those teams. It's a tough decision. Like, I'll probably lean on splitting rather than concentrating the Rams, just because with 5 weeks to go, maybe I want to play it out 2 different ways and see which path hits. Give myself like a better overall out to hitting a winner. But it is a debate. Like, I think the Rams in a vacuum would be the team you'd want to play, but unfortunately, they're one of the few that really comes up strategically. I think a lot of these other teams, you're fine playing them. And so if you have Denver, it's probably a case, if you still have Denver, you probably need to play them. I mean, it definitely over. Let's separate out the Tampa-Cleveland line. If you have one of these other teams, I know it didn't work out for people last week, but this is what you do in Survivor. This is why you have them. You're hoping that you hit the big upset where half the pool gets wiped out, and you can avoid it by being on the team nobody else is picking, and because they can't. So I think Denver comes in that category, and I think Green Bay comes in that category relative to the Bucs, just because of how high owned the Bucs are. Those would be my top 2, just because I don't see using them in any other week after this week. I don't think you have to. The Rams definitely come up. Seattle comes up, but they're also in that week 17 conversation. And then I think Baltimore, a little shakier, but Baltimore and Buffalo could be in that conversation. Buffalo's the wild card here. We can talk about Buffalo. Like, when do you use Buffalo if you avoid? Remember, we had those discussions back in week 3, week 4, week 5. Yeah. Everybody's on them. They're the big favorite. Can you save them? Well, if you've saved them till now, you stayed off those spots. When do you want to use them? They are the biggest wild card, and we'll talk about why that is here in a second.
Yeah, for sure. So let's discuss the other scenario here, because like, if you have the Broncos available and you want to fade the chalk at 51% of the Bucs, I get that. I'd also be really nervous at kickoff, making it this far in Survivor and putting my life on the line with Bo Nix. Like, but the Raiders are a dumpster fire. The Raiders are closer to the Titans than they are these other bad teams, in my opinion. I'll keep saying that. So, and I don't know how they block. Like, the Commanders moved the ball on the Broncos because they could run the ball effectively. The Raiders don't have an offensive line. His yards after contact for Ashton Genty start behind the line of scrimmage most of the time. Like, this is how bad the blocking is for them. So I get it for sure. It's just, man, Bo Nix.
You're talking about 10-2 Denver here in Bo Nix, Stephen.
I understand that. You know what? I said the same thing when the Titans got the 1 seed that one year,
Yeah.
okay? And what happened to them? They got bounced
Yeah,
early.
well, no, yeah, trust me, I'm being facetious, but,
All right, so let's
yeah.
let's we've put out that red flag with Bo Nix, so people can do what they want with that. The Bucks is the game theory situation here, right? If people do not have those other great options for Week 17, or they don't have the Rams in general, is it play the Bucks and eat the chalk because we're nearing the finish line here for you, or are you looking at some of these other options, which we'll get to in a minute?
Yeah, I think it depends. So both.
And is it
It,
dependent on pool size?
it is very much, and it is not necessarily in a straight linear way, right? Because I want to break it down. So obviously, the reason that 50% of the people are going to end up on the Bucks is because they are the biggest favorite available, and the drop off from the Bucks to the Browns, let's say, is like a 15% win odds, 14% win odds drop. So with just 5 weeks to go, I mean, I might be chopping my chances to win by 20%, right? I might be going from like, I have a 25% chance because you only have to have 5 winners. And if you've got like after this week, next week's actually probably an easier week. We'll talk about it. You probably have some of the options that are going to pop up as reasonable options next week. So this week's a lot tougher than next week in terms of just finding teams. Week 16, some of you have teams. 17 is just going to be tough in general. So let's say you have a 25% chance to get through, right? Well, you pick the Bucks, maybe you pick the Browns, maybe it goes to 20, right? Because you're taking that risk. Now, why would you take that risk? Well, because 50% is on the Bucks, one big upset, suddenly you're making a lot of money if you stay off of them and you win. So I think it comes down like with 5 weeks to go. I think you have to realistically assess, can I win this pool before week 18 is done solo by making a certain decision? Can I get a really small pot split, like where the pot split matters? Does that make like, because if I go from, let's say 50 people in a pool to 40, my pot split changes, but it doesn't change much. If I go from 4 to 2, it changes a lot, right? You're getting a much bigger share. And so I think you want to think in terms of what is my like expected pot share if I win on these routes. So I'm actually more inclined to pick Tampa on an entry where I think it's heading toward a big pot split anyway, and I don't think the pool's just. I think it's so big that we're splitting, and so I'm just like, let me get a win, right? I'm gonna split. I'm gonna make something. I'm more likely to use Cleveland on like a mid-sized pool that has like say 15 to 100 entries, where if it gets wiped, suddenly we could do what happened in Circa last week, where we're now talking, can we have a solo winner or a 2 or 3-way split? That's where I'm thinking Cleveland is a pool where I think with the right set of outcomes, I could go from a big pot split to a small or solo win.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm typically fade the chalk when it's this high of a popularity just on principle. I mean, it gets a little different when we're this far towards the end of the game here, but I mean, for what it's worth, Tyler Shuck hasn't been horrible. I mean, if we look at his EPA plus CPOE composite for the rookie starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, he's at a .025, which isn't great, but it isn't like Shedeur Sanders bad, to be quite frank. I mean, we're looking more like, you know, bottom third since 2021, basically, when we're looking at that. Whereas, let's get into the second tier of favorites now, and I want to start with the Browns because they are the second most popular team this week. And we're going to go basically from a 4-point favorite to the 7-point favorite here, and that's what we'll look at here to close out the show before Jason and I give our top 3. So we have in this tier, the Seahawks are a 7-point favorite at the Falcons. The Packers are a 6.5-point favorite at the Browns. I'm sorry, hosting the Bears.
The Bears.
Packers hosting the Bears, 6.5-point favorite. Ravens are hosting the Steelers as 6-point favorites. The Bills are 5.5-point favorites hosting the Bengals. And then the only other team favored by more than a field goal at this juncture on Wednesday morning is the Browns as a 4-point favorite hosting the Titans. I'm going to make this very simple, Jason. I've made it this far. I don't care how big your survivor pool is. I don't care how small or big the entry is. I've made it this far. I am not putting my week 14 survivor life on the line with Shedeur Sanders. Like, maybe you disagree. Maybe it's game theory, and I get that. I'm good, man. Like, this dude granted, it's a small sample size, but this is going to be another Cleveland outdoor, cold, windy game. He's had 76 plays so far this year, and a couple of other bad quarterbacks above him have had about 200 plays, so it's a small sample. But he is dead last in EPA plus CPOE composite by a decent margin behind J.J. McCarthy, who also would have been at this point one of the worst quarterbacks since 2021 by EPA and CPOE composite. So Shedeur Sanders, in the small sample that we've seen so far, which does include an indoor game, would be dead last. Worse than Spencer Rattler, worse than Zach Wilson, worse than Anthony Richardson. I don't care that the spread says 4. I'm good, man. Like, I'm not picking Shedeur Sanders in my survivor pool this week. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, you have that luxury, and I totally get it, because this is not a comfortable click at all. This is this is the pick these are the types of picks we've been trying to keep you from having to make at a high volume by talking about future value, by talking about how you want to set up for these weeks, about where you want to try to pass teams through in the past, so that we aren't having discussion. But we're going to have the discussion anyway, because I'll be honest with you, I think 8 of my, the most of my entries left are making 2 picks this week on that entry. Well, who do I pick?
If you have to make 2 picks, that's a different discussion, right?
Well, and I do, and so a lot of them, it's, do I burn both of the 2 good teams I have left that's available? Like, do I burn both of a Buffalo and a Rams, or do I do I pair one of them with one of these teams? Do I stay off Tampa? How many do I stay off Tampa on? Because in a multi-pick, Tampa could be 65% owned. But the Browns could be 25%. And so these are the tough questions. I totally get what you're saying. I mean, this is not a how many games
you're smiling so hard because of that.
Well, yeah, this is a game I would not wanted to pick weeks ago. And certainly nothing about, I mean, the only argument is it's the Titans, right?
Sure.
But how many games have the Titans maybe had the better quarterback play, passing production coming into the game? Not many.
Oh yeah, I mean, Titans have been the worst team since post-pandemic. I fully admit that.
Yeah, so I mean, the problem is in the context of, do you take for a lot of you, do you take Tampa? Do you fall back to the Browns, putting your life on the line? Or do you drop from the Browns to a team we haven't discussed yet, which is the only other team that's probably available to the masses, which is Miami as a 3-point favorite on the road at the Jets in the cold? Not a fun click either. And so, but those are the ones you probably have to consider. I mentioned Buffalo. I do want to quickly say on Buffalo.
Sure.
Because I think they're a special case. Like, what is Buffalo's future value? Right now, you're trying to hit a moving target. They're 8-4. They're chasing the Patriots. What week do they play the Patriots? So let me pull that up.
Next week, week 15 at New England.
Oh, okay. So you will know then. Okay, that's good. I couldn't remember if it was 15, 16, 17, where it was on the spectrum. You will know probably after next week, if you don't use them, what the Bills' outlook. Like, if they do not beat the Patriots, obviously they're not winning the AFC East. They have no chance. If they beat the Patriots, they're still trailing by a game, but they've at least leveled the division head to head. So the Buffalo's in the kind of the squishy zone where, are they going to be playing in week 18? because they might not be playing if they can't win the East, but they're locked into the 5 seed. That's certainly in play. But they might also be playing for the East. They might still have a mathematical chance if they beat the Patriots in Week 15. They might also do just bad enough where they have to hold off another wild card team and have to win just to hold, because they probably want to play that 4 seed. I would think they want to play the AFC North team versus maybe going somewhere else, but maybe I'm wrong. So the Bills could have great value in Week 18, hosting the Jets. They might be the nuts play in Week 18, or they might be worthless. There's probably no in between. You can also use them against the Browns in 16. So I think
that's what I was thinking. The pivot off of the likely chalk in Week 16, where Houston's going to be playing Vegas and the Chiefs are going to be playing Tennessee. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah. So here's where my logic is falling on the Bills. If I've used the Chiefs, I'm probably saving them, because the Chiefs are another of those teams that I think is going to be one of the best picks in 16 and 18. I think at this point the Chiefs are playing in 18. Whether they have an outside chance of making the playoffs, whether they're playing to win 18, whether they're eliminated from the playoffs or not. Mahomes isn't going to go out there. He's playing.
Eliminated Week 18 on the Las Vegas Strip sounds like, oh boy.
I mean, you get all week to stay. You just say we'll have our team meetings after our exit interviews afterwards. So anyway, I'm saying, like, the Bills and Chiefs are kind of tied. Like, they both could be really valuable on those 2 weeks. So if I've used the Chiefs, I'm probably more inclined to hold the Bills to have as a hammer in one of the spots and just hope that they come up in 18, or use them in 16 if I think the odds have trended more toward they're going to rest starters. So that's probably what I'm thinking on the Bills. If I have Kansas City, maybe I'm more willing to use Buffalo here.
Yeah, I'll just briefly touch on the other 2 teams in this tier. If you happen to have the Seahawks left, if Drake London doesn't play, fire at will. I think it's fine. The Packers, the Bears have been lucky to have this record. I fully admit that, but they're also improving and they're also getting healthier. And I think this run game for the Bears is one of the best we've seen in years. Like, the Bears rushing attack right now looks Jason Kelce, Eagles offensive line good. That's how good it looks. So it makes me a little nervous about taking the Packers in that spot. And then the Ravens, also just briefly touch on, if you still have them, it's now or never, I think, for the Ravens, because it is a little dicey the rest of the way with games against Burrow, Drake May, Jordan Love, and then who knows what Week 18 is at Pittsburgh. So this is kind of the spot, I think, if you are going to use the Ravens, but we'll see if they make it into either of our top 3 here, Jason. I'll let you kick it off here. What is your top 3 for Week 14?
Well, let's do the top 3 outside that are mostly used by people. And then I'm going to put the challenge. We're just going to rank 1 through 3, Tampa, Cleveland, Miami, on like of the available teams. Like, so I'm going to say my top 3 of the first one. I'm playing Denver, unfortunately. And I don't. I love. I would probably.
I'm not going to knock that as much as I would knock the Browns. Like, that's fine.
I'm going to take Denver probably if I have them. Like, I don't think I actually have any, so I'm not. So they're number 1, and I think I would have to say it would be the Rams if I knew who I had. Rams would be it if I had a good Week 17 option. So I'm going to put them 2, and then Green Bay 3rd, because I don't think you're going to use them again. Whereas Seattle, similar spread, similar question marks now, but a team I can use more to make the rest of the schedule work. So those are my top 3, I think, for now. As for the others, man, it's really hard. Like you said, what do you do? I don't love any of them, because I hate being on a team where I'm getting such an EV payoff. I'm going to have some Tampa Bay. It's not going to be anywhere near 50%. It might be 20%, 15, 20% of my double picks are on Tampa, and the small percentage on Cleveland. I'm more inclined to generally eat the chalk, but I will be playing Cleveland on a couple. in my multi-picks. So I would say it goes in order of odds.
Multi-pick pools, totally understandable. It's a different beast.
So
it's a different situation.
I'm not 100% on EM, so I'm willing to lose some entries this week and spray the board a little bit with them. But I'm probably going, if I were down to one, Tampa, probably in a small pool. Like I said, I would play Cleveland the larger it got, but the less likely it is to be a massive pot split. And then if it's a massive pot split, like some late starts, they're going to have hundreds of people winning them. The question is, do you get to the end? If my goal is to basically get to the end, I'm definitely playing Tampa here. So I'm going to go in order of the odds. I'm just going to say Tampa, Cleveland, Miami.
Okay. And your other three were Broncos. Who is the second team? Buffalo?
Rams.
And then Packers, you said, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay, I want to give my top three from just a straight up one pick per week in a pool perspective here. And I'm going to do what I have done a lot of weeks where I'm going to fade the two most popular teams. The Bucks are at 51%. Shedeur Sanders at 12% is just crazy talk to me. No, thank you. I'm good. So I'm going to fade the two most popular teams. Now, if you just want to get to the finish line, have the maximum chances of winning something in your pool, and you want to use the Bucks this week, I'm not going to knock you for that. It's totally fine. Like, there's only 5 weeks left. There's not many other great spots to use. I take it back. The Bucks are kind of a good spot the rest of the way here. They have Atlanta next week, at Carolina, at Miami.
They could be a good pick in week 18 if they're playing for the division at home against Carolina.
Yeah, sure. 100%. So they're kind of like the Bills in a way where you have multiple spots where you can use them the rest of the way. So, but if you want to use them this week, I'm not going to criticize you for that. For my top three, I'm wiping out the Bucks and the Browns. That means I'm going to start with the Rams. If you made it to this week, that means you probably didn't pick the Rams last week, and you might have them available. So if you do have them available, they are my top pick. But I will just, again, remind everybody to check out week 17 and what you have available, because the next most likely winners that week right now in terms of win probability projection at Pool Genius are the Patriots, the Seahawks, and the Lions, which a lot of entries have already used. So if that's the case, you might want to skip down to number 2 or 3 here on my list. And I'm going to skip Seattle because I think a lot of entries have used them, but I think they're a fine pick. I want to skip Denver because I don't like Bo Nix, but I get it. I'm going to skip the Packers because I think the Bears are actually pretty good. So I'm going to go. I'm running out of teams here, Jason. This isn't going well.
That's the problem. Here's my I'm looking to stay off Cleveland and Tennessee, or Cleveland and Tampa, if I have one of these other options, whoever they are. Like I'm would you agree with that?
All right. Well, I want to make my top three then pretty simple here. I'll go Rams, Seattle, Bucks. if I don't feel good about the others, I'll give an honorable mention to the Ravens because I actually think they were pretty unlucky with pass interference that took away a touchdown and a fumble through the end zone that took away a touchdown. That game got flipped on its head in the second half against the Bengals, where it could have been a totally different game script. So honorable mention to the Ravens, but I'll go Rams, Seattle, and Bucks for this week. Hope it was helpful, everybody. We're trying to get you to the finish line if you're still alive here. If you found this helpful, do us a small favor. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let us know in the comments who you are picking at NFL Survivor Pools for week number 14. For Jason Lisk, I'm Stephen Andress. Best of luck in your NFL Survivor Pools for week 14.